Welcome to Gaia's Love, a podcast of brief messages to help humanity bridge the gap to the new earth. My name is Vivienne Gerard. It is my delight to be a scribe for consciousness today, sharing the wisdom that flows through from Source. Here we go. Episode 144. It is Tuesday today. Here in Cincinnati, the sun is shining. It is such a beautiful day. It's still chilly, but it's so beautiful. I stepped outside this morning when I was with Star, and the birds were singing as the sun was rising. Here in our home, because we're at the top of a hill, you can see the sun coming up through the trees, and so I often take pictures of the sunrise. And today's was so beautiful. The sounds and the color, the moment was so good that I captured it in video and I shared it over in social media. So if you are looking for a little sound inspiration for your day, you can listen to how the birds were just singing to me this morning. It was so beautiful. All right, I am going to ponder this idea of archiving for today. We'll just see how it all comes together. Part of the dance and the delight for me is wondering how it's all going to tie into something cohesive and then being amazed at the end when it usually does. So this morning I had this clear awareness or message of it's time to archive my website. I do all of the edits myself to my website, and I've built quite a collection of pages and content, and so I've witnessed those around me who have lost a lot of information on their websites, and the message they always have given is make sure you do a backup, make sure you do an archive. My dad is in information technology, has been his whole life, and that's always been his message to me. Always have a backup of everything. Make sure you've got a backup. And so I archive on a regular basis, but it's been a few months and I've created a lot of content. So I was thinking this morning, you got to make sure you archive, get a copy of the website emailed over to you so that you've got that backup just in case. So as happens, when a message comes through, I just start sitting with it and wondering what it means and taking a few minutes. And I was just feeling like this whole idea of archiving and creating backups. So when I archive my website, basically what it does is it collects all of the content that I've been creating, all of the designs and the work and the words and everything that I've gathered or brought into creation. It creates a copy of it, and then I send it to myself and I save that copy. So if anything ever happens to the original website, I've got this copy that can be brought back and opened up, and then I will only have lost what has happened between when I made the archive and if or when something would get lost. So it's up to me to determine how long that gap is. And for some people, they never make backups of anything. So if they would lose it, it's just gone. It's just gone forever. So you have to start over. There's the same process for design work. There's a program called Photoshop that I learned over the years I've been working in marketing and design, and it has this ability to create layers as you're designing an image or a design piece. So if you can visualize, it's got like a layer for the text, a layer for the image, a layer on top to make it transparent or to add some design element to it, and then another layer for more words, and another layer if you want to put another picture on top of it. And so you're stacking all these layers. Well, you can't print it or email it with all those layers because the document is too big and it doesn't show unless the other person has that exact same system. So you have to do what's called flattening the layers. And when you flatten the layers, you'll only do this once or twice, and you'll realize you'll never do it again. But if you flatten all the layers and save it as a new document, and you forget to save it as a new document, and you save it as the old one, you've lost every drop of the work in creating those layers. It's just now a flattened document. You can't go back in and make any changes or edits, which seems like not such a big deal unless you've been working on this document for days. And then you flatten the layers and suddenly you've lost all that work. And in order to make an edit, you're going to have to recreate the exact same document. So as I was thinking about archiving my website this morning, I was just laughing at, this idea of flattening the layers in Photoshop and making backups of everything. And here's how it feels relevant as I take you on this pondering journey with me. I was considering this in the sense of our journey as souls. There's this idea that many have of a place or a collection of energy that's called the Akashic Records. And whether you believe in it or not is up to you. But there's this idea that souls are accumulating information and knowledge from the time that they're first birthed into existence until this moment that you're experiencing right now, and then all future moments and all parallel moments. And, there's a record of every single thing. And you could call it archives if you want. You can call it archiving. But there's a way that every experience we have accumulates and informs who we are in this moment. And this moment right here, right now, is the only one that is real and being experienced by our consciousness right here, because it's the moment that we're present in. It's the only moment that is tangible and real and can be changed or shifted. It's right here. We can't change the past or change the future in this moment. We can change this moment right here. And so if you imagine this idea of archiving or layering, if you forget that, let me see how to say this. Everything we do has a backup created somewhere in consciousness. Every experience, every thought, every belief, every action, every lifetime, every place we travel to in our minds, our dreams, our thoughts, our emotions, everything has a record or a backup somewhere recorded. If we forget that there's a backup and we're just traveling on through and that's not the right way to say it. Let me try it again. Whether we are aware of it or not, there is a backup that has been created. The confusion for us often here in this human journey is that we can't access the backup. We can't open up a file and see immediately, what did we do in our last lifetime? Where were we as a soul before we were right here in this human body in this moment? Where are we going next? What are we supposed to be doing? Why are we here? We can't just open up a file like in technology here on Earth and look at what it was. We forget all of that when we come into these human bodies. And so it's like we're moving blindly through these human lives, trying to figure out what we may have learned somewhere else, perhaps redoing the same lessons that we've already done, creating the same stuff, It's like archiving a website. If I don't archive it and send it to myself and something would happen to the website, I'd have to recreate that page. So I'd have an idea of what that page might have looked like because I've done it once before, but I don't just have all the words and the images right there to just boop, drop it right in. So it's going to take time and focus to redo what I've already done once before. And sometimes we have this frustration when we're doing design work, like, I've already done that. I'm wasting time. Why do I have to redo it? Why didn't I save it? Why didn't I send myself an archive? Anyone who's flattened an image in Photoshop that they need to make edits to, or that is, losing a website and having to redesign it. Like, you know, that frustration of, oh, like, shit, I've already done this. Why am I wasting time doing it again? Imagine the frustration that we can sometimes feel in our soul. If we know we've done this lesson before, and here we are redoing the same lesson. Like, why? Why do we have to go through this again? You know, our mind, body, spirit has a sense of repeating something that has already perhaps been done in another time. So perhaps the wisdom for us, two things. One is surrendering to the fact that there's something we must need to learn if we're redoing it. There must be some nuance or some expansion or some extra nugget that's going to come through that we're going to get this time. And if we hadn't had all those other times of practicing, we just wouldn't be fully ready for this time. So perhaps like just surrendering to that instead of yelling at ourselves or being so frustrated with ourselves. Like, give yourself a break. You're here for some incredible purpose. You would have to be, or you wouldn't be in this moment. Your soul wouldn't go through all this if there wasn't something amazing that's going to be birthed through you, that only you can bring, in only the way you can bring it. And all of that other stuff, all those other layers that you've flattened, all of those other files that you've created that you think are lost, they're not lost. They're in you. They're informing who you are and how you're showing up right now. So drop the frustration about it. Let go of the self-judgment and irritation that we don't have it all consciously remembered yet. It's coming. It's coming. We'll remember when we need to remember. And then the other nugget I would offer is all of those archives of our soul, all of those journeys we've had, all of those experiences we've been through, they're inside of us. They're not out there somewhere waiting for someone to give us. They're inside of us. And when we practice stillness, when we practice quiet, when we're listening and tuning in to the messages our soul is giving us, when we meditate, we do yoga, all the things I talk about all the time, when we bring those practices into our days, everything we've ever been is accessible to us inside. We just have to figure out how we access it, or how we unfold or unflatten our own layers. So it's like a new language. We sort of have to just figure out the technology of who we are and how do we access those stories of our soul. Because they're ours, they're in us, we already know them. Somewhere in ourselves we remember them. And so we can practice, with the tools that I show here in this space, with meditation, with visualization, we can practice. And it becomes easier and easier and easier. And then pretty soon, it's all right there. It's like we can go to our own internal computer, open up the archives and go, okay, so when did I learn this lesson about speaking my truth before? What was the experience as a soul that was so profound that when I knew I would need it, my soul would just bring that moment, that story, that experience forward for me. And we ask for that and then wait and see, right? You may get the flash of that in the moment. You may turn on something on YouTube and there's Wayne Dyer, like this morning, just preaching to you about, all these beautiful concepts, and there's your answer. There's your remembering. You've opened your own archives of what you already know. Or you read something in a book and it all just comes back and you have clarity, you have awareness, and you're instantly guided by yourself into where and what and how you're going to be moving next. It's all within. We just It's one of the things we forgot. It's one of the layers we flattened, is that we forgot we have all the answers within us. And the people around us are just showing and reflecting our lessons to us. So it's really quite incredible. Yeah, so this idea of archiving. Archiving, it's all already inside. So create the time and the practices to be able to access these knowings, these truths, this information, these layers for yourself. Yeah, and then, we share them and we talk about them, and in community, we keep learning together. It's so good. It's so good. Thank you for tuning in to today's vibration. Let's take this message of pure love out into all of our communities and continue expanding love here on Gaia. So much love from my heart to yours.